Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm doing the 2017 Best Budget PC build. This is the third time I've done one of these videos, but before it was just CSGO, but this year I'm doing all games, not just CS. I figured CS had died out a little bit. It's been on the decline, in my opinion, so I picked a bunch of parts that would be able to fit newer games and run them at high settings. So without any further delay, let's get right into it. So to start it all off, we have the Intel i3-6100. This is a dual core processor, but it does have 4 threads, which means it somewhat acts like a quad core. It's clocked at 3.7 GHz, and it can run new games with an up-to-date graphics card, which is exactly what we'll be using, and it requires 51 watts. But if you do want to run like higher games and games that'll take a little bit more processing power, you would want to get the Hyper 212 Evo CPU cooler, and if you want to overclock, and get that as well. I can't lie, I do use the stock cooler, but it's definitely suggested to get the cooler, which is about $35, $25 depending on where you get it from. And the processor itself comes in at about 110. Next up we have our motherboard, which is the Asus H110ME. This is a micro ATX motherboard. It does have 2 RAM slots, and the maximum allowed is 32 gigs, which would be a 2x16. It does not have SLI, which really, it doesn't matter. It's supposed to be a budget motherboard anyways, so don't expect too much from that. And it does have USB 3.0 headers, which will come in handy because the case has slots for that, and it requires about 60 watts from the power supply. Now this motherboard comes in at about $55 to $60 depending on the day. It is a great budget motherboard though. Next up we have the G.Skill Ripjaw 5s, I believe. I do have G.Skill Ripjaw RAM, it's just not these, because this is DDR4, my PC still has DDR3, I know, it's a fucking dinosaur, but I did just get a 1050 Ti. But anyways, this is 8GB, it's 2x4, it's pretty simple. Like I said, it's DDR4 RAM instead of DDR3, and it has heat spreaders, which will help cool the RAM down, which really isn't that necessary, but I mean, if you have it, why not? And it only needs about 5 watts from the power supply. Next up we have the Western Digital 1TB Blue Caviar hard drive. It is 1TB, just like the title says, that's pretty obvious. It has 64 megabytes of cache, 7,200 rotations per minute RPM, and it needs about 20 watts. This is basically just a necessity. You can get 2 terabytes if you really think you're going to have that much on your computer. You can also get an SSD for games in your operating system, but besides that, this is all I have, and this is all you really need. Now one of our key components, the graphics card, which I chose the Zotac GTX 1050. It's about $110, which is pretty solid for a graphics card, especially since it's better than the 950 and much better than the 750. I have upgraded from the 750 Ti to the 1050 Ti, which is a huge difference. But sorry to relate everything from this video to my PC, but it just kind of helps me get an idea for how good these parts are. Anyways, it's clocked at 1.35 GHz. It can be overclocked to 1.46 GHz. It has 2 gigs of memory, which is not great, but it's still perfectly fine for a budget PC. And it does not support SLI, which is fine. The motherboard doesn't anyways, and you wouldn't need to. If you're going to get SLI, I'd get better graphics card. And it only needs about 75 watts. Also, if you really do want to run maximum settings on some games and you want to get a 4 gig card, you can get the GTX 1050 Ti for about $40 more, $30 more, depending on where you get it from. Since this PC only needs about 220 watts, as it says right there, we only need a 430 watt EVGA power supply. It's 80 plus certified, and like I said, the PC only needs about 220 watts, so you don't really need to go crazy and get 600 or even 500, which is pretty basic. But this is a great price, but I believe it is not modular. Now we're going to need a place to put all these parts, so why not the Cooler Master N200? It's a micro ATX mini which fits the motherboard fine. It does not have a side window, which is kind of a downside. Like I said earlier, the case has USB 3.0 header slots, which is what the motherboard has, so it'll be perfect for it. And obviously the power supply goes inside of it and the case doesn't take up any power. So yeah, that's that. So for those who actually plan on buying this PC, I'll leave the link in the description, and it did come out to about $480, which really isn't that bad considering you can run a lot of games at 1080p 60 frames per second. And yeah, if you have any questions about this build or need any tips and tricks, or not tricks, but just leave them in the comment section down below. I'll try and get to answer as many as I can. Last time that happened, The video wasn't that popular at first, so I was able to answer all the questions and it got really popular, and that's why I'm making this video again. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.